How you doing? Welcome back. I'm glad you're here. If you're new, I'm Jimmy. We're making it work. Just got to move a couple things and get this, get my door wedge in place. We like to use that little block of wood with some weight on it in case it gets a little windy. That door likes to slam closed. We're trying to prevent that and keep it from happening. Hey, some of you guys might remember this truck. We're gonna spend a day in the shop fixing a whole bunch of cars. Actually, I have no idea what we're gonna do today, but you're gonna know in a second because I'm gonna put some clips in right here. It's got no third gear. I just Acura RDX. Complain about a brake noise. Customer hit something in the road and now it doesn't go. Just a little Cadillac that's overheating. 2003 Nissan Z in front alignment. We got a beautiful sunny day. It's 53 degrees in Central Florida. Dealing with that is like dealing with rust around here. Let me tell you what, it's cold. When you're a Central Floridian, although I'm from Long Island, New York originally, that was, man, 36, 37 years ago I moved down here. I've been in Florida longer than I was on Long Island. Anyway, we're not here for my family history. We're not here for weather. We're gonna go in and fix a bunch of cars. I know that Kia Sedona from yesterday, that solenoid fixed the way it ran. It was constantly running bad. The solenoid had completely failed. When I pulled it apart, you could see the parts inside the solenoid were blocking the oil passage, and the new one you could see right down the tube. So we know for a fact now that that thing's fixed. We're gonna put the other solenoid in as well, just as a preventative measure. Then we'll see what happens after that. So stay tuned. It's gonna be worthwhile, I'm sure. We're gonna learn something, and we're gonna have some fun. All right, first things first, we're gonna pull this intake off of here and do the other solenoid because we don't want to have a problem now that we know that solenoid failed. The other one is probably not far behind. They work a lot. Oh, by the way, too, appreciate Martin sending me this center punch. Very cool. Never bought one. My whole career I've gone without one. I just usually struggle to try to find a center of a bolt I need to drill or a hole I need to start. This thing's awesome. Automatic center punch from Starrett. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. It's awesome when you guys support the channel like that. This will definitely come in handy because I almost bought one when I was at Harbor Freight warrantying out my side cutters. I think I showed you guys this already, but just in case, they rounded the tip off now so it doesn't break as easy. I think the lift goes up like four or five stories, something like that. Okay. So I went up to warranty these out and got me a bucket and some ear muffs, and I almost bought a center punch kit with different diameter center punches. Glad I did, and I said, you know what? I'm not going to buy that whole kit. I don't really use it that often. I'd rather have just a single center punch. Boom, there you go. Anyway, get to work. Discombobulate some hoses, discombobulate some 10 millimeters, a couple electrical connectors, take this air snorkel off. Try not to break anything. The rubber and plastic's a little bit brittle, so we're going to try to be a little careful with that stuff, and some things you just can't help. You're going to have to repair or replace some of the things that are going to break no matter what, but we'll see if we can keep it to a minimum. We thought about just leaving the one solenoid and shipping it like that, but just too many times you do that, and 3 weeks later it's back with the other one bad. So let's avoid that pitfall, I guess. All right, my 10 millimeter, get some of these pesky bolts out of the way. Uh-oh. Why does it feel like my power? Oh, look at that. Sometimes I bump this button by mistake. Changes everything. There's rubber underneath that too to make it a little more interesting. It's kind of stuck. Don't worry, we got a persuader handy at all times. I don't know what this is either. I think that was underneath it. Probably broke off. It's not supposed to. All right, I'll have to worry about that when we put it back together. Oh, another thing I learned too the hard way. Don't put any hardware up here when you're taking an intake off. One time I was working on, I think it was a 3.1 GM, doing intake gaskets. You know, they always leak coolant and stuff. And I put all my bolts up there. And luckily I had done so many of them that when I bumped the wiper cowl and all the bolts fell in the engine, I spent about 40 minutes finding all the bolts and nuts, and I knew exactly how many bolts and nuts there were because I had done so many. And I found every single nut and bolt that fell in the engine. Anyway, don't put hardware above the engine when you're going to open it up. And ever since then, I've been covering the engines a lot better and not putting hardware in precarious positions. I'm just saying. That's my old man tip for the day. You can open this safety up. Little white lever. Then you can squeeze a little tab very gently. I'm only disconnecting to get some more slack in the harness. It does not want to come out of my way. So I'm working little by little on this thing, trying to get her to cooperate a little bit. I can probably sneak it out of there if I put a bungee cord on this. I think we'll do that. See if we can sneak that plenum up out of their way. Uh-oh. Let me clean up our work area here because it looks like we got to take the injectors and stuff out to get to some of them bolts. I was just bragging the other day about how easy it is to work on Kias and Hyundais. And I don't know, this is one of the more complicated ones to do these solenoids on. That's alright. We'll get it. Just gonna clean up my area so we don't want things to get worse rather than better. I'm gonna get a blowgun, blow the heck out of this thing, and we'll be ready for disassembly. I'm feeling pretty good about that. Well, it looks like there's a breather tube that's got to come out, 2 10s, and that goes right here. And then the injector rail looks to also be, I think, yeah, that's bolted to the lower, so I might be able to leave that in. Might be just this breather tube gonna give me trouble. We don't want no trouble. Alright, come on, Louie. There you go. Not so bad. Not have to be difficult. Alright. Hardest part of the job. Brace in the back. I took the throttle body off to get to it. Don't you fall, you turkey. Victory is mine. Alright. We don't want to blow the light out. We just want a little assistance from the light. That's all. 3 bolts on the throttle body too. Most of them have 4. Kia's like, you know what? We only need 3. I don't care. Rebel. They're rebels. See if 12s fit on those too. Sometimes your eyes mess with you. Oh yeah, especially at my age. 12s. This is a 10, of course. I can tell that. I'm not stupid. A little goofy, but not stupid. Let me get the power tool on these. We'll see if this plenum will lift off now. Fairly confident, but not bragging yet. $10mm. You know why I'm using my deep sockets, right? Just because I haven't used them in a while and they seem to be a little lonely over there. So I figured, why not? Spread the love around.
So I have
I'm still holding it.
cool.
It's a 12 or a 14 back here. Yeah, that's what it is. Alright. Let's see you want to play.
So it's like a little bulkhead. You'll clip
this one's
one
tight.
end of it. Your regular.
I think once this bolts out, it'll lift off. Oh, that's nice. That is coming out of there. Whether it wants to or not. Yep, I still got one hose to do. You son of a gun. I think this one hose goes to the valve cover in the back. Oh, I got the clamp off of it, that's right. I couldn't get the rubber to release from its nest. A little twist to set her free, and she comes back to you as meant to be. Come with me. 2 of the bolts that hold this down are 12s and the rest are Allens. I don't know why, but those are just the facts. That's all I've got. Let the nuts stay down below. Now I gotta switch to my Allen apparatus. And there should be 6 of those. I'm gonna disconnect the fuel line, and I think the injectors and lower come up as one piece. So much easier than taking the upper off. That's where most of the work was. And then we'll be able to get to the solenoid. I might as well use my my sweet Vim extended reach Allen set. I got a whole set of, some of them are ball, some of them are regular flat heck, some of them are Torx. Got the whole kit and caboodle. First time I'm using it. I gotta make that video. Maybe I'll have time to do it Sunday working on the truck. All I've got left on the project truck, basically, Harley with really high-end bags and stuff. Anyway, all I gotta do now is get that seat reupholstered back together. And that truck's drivable. I mean, I got a lot of little things to do, but I can drive it while I'm doing them. So maybe I'll have a chance to make the video showcasing all the tools I think are still cool, but I could do without. Do this. Ooh wee! Those 2 are tight. The others, not so much. I think we're good to go. Wow. I got gas dripping out of the rail. I want to let that finish dripping before I carry it across the open ports. At least most of it. There's a solenoid right there. It's easy. I'm not even going to bother messing with the gaskets or anything yet. I'm going to put that solenoid in, get that out of my mind. Then we'll move on to cleaning things up and putting new gaskets in place. For now, I don't want anything going down there. That's my only real concern. That connector's not broken. Nice. 10 millimeter, which is right here. Ugh. That's why there's so much confusion in the labor guide. One solenoid comes out without taking the intake off. One of them you have to take the intake off. So, alrighty. You're coming with me. Let's do this. Come on. Don't give me a hard time either. I got other tools. I want to do it with this one. Let's see if it happens. Let's see if it does it. Come on, you. The phone's ringing. Man, these things are in there. Okay, I'm gonna have to bend to the solenoid's will and get more tools. That's what I'm trying to get out of there. In case you're wondering, it might be hard to see from the angle I had the camera at. So I'm gonna move you guys around a little bit. Hope you don't mind. Try to give you a better perspective. Don't bump up these views. It's really in there because where the O-ring is in the bore, you get a little dirt and debris above the O-ring that kind of make it not want to pull. So I'll spray it with the blowgun, maybe a little deep creep back and forth, and keep working it, and finally just poof, they pop out. A little bit of, oh, there you go. That's easy. This one doesn't have quite the debris, but it is sludged up on the bottom there. Interesting. Cool. Glad we're changing it. Let's put it that way. Alright, I got some nice 2050 right here. Perfect for just this kind of thing. I'm going to rub her all down here, get her all lubed up, and should slip right in. I don't think it will. They're tight, and there's no margin for error on these things. But the motor oil definitely helps. So. Don't want the connector in my way. Sometimes you actually have to give them a little love to get them in. Don't be alarmed by the tapping. It's all part of the process. And we're in. Use my magnetic socket just because I can't get my little digits in there. Alright, now it's started. Back to automated tools. Click. Torque spec, perfect. Okay, I bumped this connector and it broke. They're very brittle, so we're gonna replace it. I'm gonna use some WeatherPack shrinkable butt connectors. I'm not gonna solder it. I apologize if that bothers some people. It's the way I've had good luck doing these kinds of repairs. If you solder them and it works for you, keep doing it, man. That's all I can say. The pink is on the left side of the connector. When you look down at the tab, that's all that I'm gonna go by. When I put the new one on, the wires are both black. So I stripped the wires. I cut them staggered. Same thing with the other side, so I can get my connectors on there. Don't even have to really think about it at this point because I cut the pink one longer, shorter. So that's how it'll go together. Piece of cake. You got to get a couple of red WeatherPack. These are small wires, so the red ones are the smallest. Another thing I'll do sometimes is I'll put one butt connector on the short wire, and I'll put the butt connector on the short wire on the other side when there's only two wires. Another thing I can do to ease my mind about having to make sure they're connected right and worrying about it. I'm using the Doyle wire crimper tool from Harbor Freight. Some people might tell you online it's not possible because it can't be done without a snap-on tool, but I'm here to tell you that's not true. Keep your money. Buy the expensive stuff when you have to. Don't buy it all the time, because most of the time you don't need it. It's overrated. There was a time, I think, when that was more true, but nowadays there's so many good options with Vim and Lyle and other tool truck brands. Don't let them convince you to be a good mechanic you have to be in debt with tools. The less often you need something, the more of a specialty tool it is, the less likely it has to be a tool truck brand. Once I found out most of them were even rebranded, it was even more like, wow, why am I being loyal? So, anyway, enough of that babbling. I give these a little tug, not too crazy, just to make sure I caught the copper strands in where I crimped. Now I get my little mini torch. I could even use my heat gun, but I don't have a battery. I have a Milwaukee heat gun, and it works, but I don't have a battery in it right now, so we'll just do this. Watch your fingers, it's hot. If you're patient, you can do it without melting it. You just want to shrink it, but not necessarily melt it. Although it always happens a little bit to some degree. No big deal. The whole point of these is that they keep moisture out, so the wires won't corrode down the road where you repaired it. Alright, let that cool a second. We'll start putting this thing back together. Now, some people might say, hey, you got to tape that up and cover it up and all, but I want any future mechanic has to work on this car to know, hey man, someone's changed the connectors. You know, that's possible. You might want to take a look at that, because they don't know if it was done right or not, right? So why should I hide it? Even though we all know it was done right. They don't. And you don't know what the future holds. So something could come up with it. And now it's visible that they can stick a voltmeter down in there and have a peak. So get these gaskets out of here. I got a whole cool new gasket kit. This has little pins down here that the manifold sits on, so it lines everything up nice for you. Surprised me how hard the plenum was, but the lower, easy. And this is another mistake a lot of guys make that I see. I even watched Brent from Half-Ass Customs last night. He had a perfectly clean LS surface area for his intake, but he put a Scotch lock pad on it and Scotch locked it all over where the gasket's gonna seat. Don't do that. He's a good mechanic, I'm not degrading him, but he probably hasn't looked at the manufacturer's procedures and that say do not sand that area. It says to clean it with a plastic scraper. Don't make it look pretty. You want to get back to the original surface that the seals seal on. Try not to drop any dirt down there. I always try to push away. You can't help it on the upper side of the port, but when I get done cleaning this to where I'm satisfied, I'll blow a little shop air in the hole so it pushes any minor debris out of there. And the engine can actually handle a little bit, believe it or not, so try to avoid it. Think about some of them engines. If you watch the Will It Run videos on YouTube, those engines have sat for 20 years with no oil in the cylinders and they're rusted inside. They put Marvel Mystery Oil or something in there and fire it up and they actually run okay. But the less risk you take, the better your odds of success. Here, when the valve's open, it sounds different. Now that's a perfect surface. There's no need to hit that with a Scotch lock. Did I say that already? Don't do it. Drop these new gaskets in place. This side has studs instead of guide pins in the head. Interesting. But that doesn't look like it lined up. That means it goes the other way. Tricky son of the guns, man. It's a good thing I don't trust any of this kind of stuff and I always check. Maybe this goes to the other side, I don't know. There it is, okay. So the gasket has a direction. Now you can see one side is boxed and one side is angled. And the angled sides both go over here. So that's another thing you always, in this business, you're always double, triple checking, looking around, seeing what's going on. What's gonna give me trouble? And clean the lower intake up a little bit, we'll get that in. Same thing on the lower. Wiping it down, making sure there's no imperfections as far as gasket material or something, but metal shim gasket, pretty forgiving. And all that time I had that thing sitting there and there's still fuel coming out of the rail. I don't want to fill a cylinder with raw fuel. Give me any trouble. Find the studs. This thing is dropping home. There it is. Now I'll feel a little better putting a rag over those temporarily. Get all these bolts started. I gotta go look up the torque specs. I was talking to my buddy William in an email too about this kind of thing. What do you torque, what do you not torque? But it's a judgment call. Something that might give you trouble, torque it. Something that won't, ship it. A lot of it's experience too. You know what 20 foot-pounds is, and you know when the phone rings, and you know what 80 foot-pounds is when you've been doing it a long time. Safe to buzz those down with a power tool, go look up the torque specs, and we'll come back. I want you to do 4 and 17. And they want you to do the 17 twice. And they want you to follow 2 different orders, starting from the center out. But where you do 1 bolt and cross like that, then they want you to start the other bolt and those bolts in the opposite direction at the same torque spec, if that makes sense. Seems a little confusing. They have some kind of a reason. And I tend to always go over them twice when I I'm gonna do an engine work especially. So that's what we're gonna do. I am adjusting a little bit because I wasn't gonna use 2 different torque wrenches. It seems a little silly to get down to 4 pounds for the first one. So I'm going at 9 pounds with this torque wrench. And some people will say they're not accurate down that low. I know. It's more accurate than not torquing it at all. You know what I'm saying? That's how we roll around here. Alright, now I'm going to step up the torque to 17. We're going to go around a couple more times. We come back, we'll video the first round, and hey, you know what? This is probably the most exciting thing on YouTube anyway. I'm just going to video all of it. Let's do it. We'll speed it up though. We are ready to drop this bad boy back on. Got my rear injectors hooked back up. Everything's good to go. Rags are out of position. Coils I never unplugged. Only in the front. I always focus on tightening up these intake bolts and torquing them before I go to the braces, because you don't want the braces to pull and affect all that. So at least that's how it's always worked for me. So let's get that bolted down. I'm going to start this brace bolt, but I'm not going to tighten it yet. Just be a little easier to get started without the manifold tight. Now, it's only 8 foot-pounds on those bolts, which they felt like they were tighter than that. That's not much at all. All right. Tighten my braces up. Then we're just going to put a whole bunch of 10mm bolts back in place for all these little tiny brackets. I only unbolted them so to give me more wiggle room. I could have also popped the connectors off the bracket, but it's always easier getting them little 10s than it is getting the lock tabs out of the metal brackets. Plus they might break. Everything seems a little brittle on this thing. Alright, got all my accoutrements in. All my little 10s, coils, injectors, ground. I gotta put in my air snorkel dealio. I like to do a double check on all this stuff. Throttle body. One of the brackets for the harness goes in one of the throttle body bolts, FYI. Fuel line's connected. All my hose clamps are on. I'm gonna put that snorkel in there. We're gonna fire this thing up. Everything's double, triple checked. Got my rags out of all the areas. I even put a bolt in the power steering hose. Someone had replaced it and just left the bolts out because they're hard to get to. So I threw one in there at least. I feel a little better about it. Let's start this thing up. Ah, you thought there was something wrong there for a second, didn't you? Didn't have any fuel in the fuel rail. Because I did not start it up secretly before starting the camera. That's just how I roll. This is reality TV, but like for real. I'm gonna let it run a few minutes. Make sure everything's copacetic, and then we'll put the engine cover on this thing, take it for a drive. Hopefully, he's good to go for a while with this car. I really was leaning towards the cam phaser because of all the problems, but when I saw that solenoid, you can see parts inside look like they were all askew, and askew is generally not good unless it's at a barbecue. I don't know if that's the same, but you know what I mean. Well, that's no good. Put a transmission in March or something like that, I think, and it's got no third gear. I just came back from a little road test, and I'm gonna take a look at the fluid, see what that looks like. It's full and it smells like it's been cooked. So looks like a warranty transmission is going to go in this one. Gotta check engine light. Let's see what the codes are. The shocks are totally blown out of this thing. Goes down the road bouncing the whole time you're driving it. But I suspect we're not going to do those, but we'll see. I'm going to put the scanner on it next. All right. There's some things going on. I mean, it's an old girl, so I think it's a 2005, and I think it's got 304,713 loving miles. This truck's probably actually not seen a lot of love, but he does fix it every time it breaks. I know that. He's been coming here for years. He lately has stopped worrying about the little things, though, of course, you can tell. He used to fix everything and anything on this years ago when he first got it, but it says here the mileage, oil changes due at 156,815. So something's not right. I don't know if the cluster's been replaced or if the sticker's never been changed or what, but maybe someone put the wrong mileage in. That's more likely. We're gonna go ahead, get these two talking, see what kind of codes we got. It's basically just, what do you want to call it, semantics at this point, because the transmission's got no third gear. Very, very rarely is that an electrical problem, especially when you can smell the fluid like I smell it. So anyway, we're gonna go dual zone manual. GMs like to, now it'll ask what kind of transfer case it might have if it's four-wheel drive, but I don't think it is. Two-wheel drive. Under 8,600. I think it's got rear disc. Let's look. All right. I'm going to get this information all in here. We'll see what the codes are. We'll come back. We're going to go to love rating of 3. And I'm being nice because that's probably a little high. Got 11 powertrain system codes. Uh-oh, that's not a good sign. And that gas gauge is struggling. Oil pressure gauge pegged at 80. The gas gauge goes back and forth and sometimes just goes down to E, and the low fuel light starts going ding ding ding. So he's obviously got coolant in the back here, so something going on with that. He's got fuel trim codes, coolant temperature below regulating, which means the thermostat might be defunct. Rich bank 1, rich bank 2, NOx sensor, catalyst efficiency bank 1, evap emissions small leak detected, large leak detected, fuel level sensor circuit high voltage, evap flow during non-purge, oil pressure sensor circuit low voltage. You could have problems with oil pressure sensor and the fuel sender, which makes it look like the cluster's acting up, but over temperature, so he got it really hot. Driver's seat, adjustable foot pedal problem, front deployment loop open so his airbag won't work if he has an accident. What else do we have here? Driver front deployment loop open, right front tire pressure sensor malfunction, left rear tire pressure. So we got some codes. We got some codes. I think we're only going to focus on the transmission, but he does want a safety inspection too. So I'm gonna let him know what's going on with the transmission, and then when Bill's done putting this annoying lady, this lady behind me right now. I don't know if you can see her. The mirror is pretty jacked up, but she's she used to get her car serviced here, and then she said we charge way too much for oil changes. $45 is ridiculous. So now she gets her oil changed somewhere else, and whatever repairs I guess she needs. I'm not sure. She drives a fairly new car, but she comes in here for air. So they don't air her tires up where she gets her oil changed. So she was just standing behind me yelling, Can someone give me air? Can someone give me air? Hello? Hello? Super annoying. I really want to fire her and tell her to stay off the property, to tell you the truth, but I'm sorry. I let that get under my skin a little bit. Let's get back to work. When she moves, I'm going to put it on the alignment rack, look around underneath. He wants a safety inspection. And, well, you can see she just looks annoying. Well, let's get a look. The brake pads are good. I think we must have done them. The rubber's starting on the sway bar links, but nothing terrible yet. No coolant leaks. I wonder why he's got all the coolant in there. There's no traces of coolant. Oops, steering box is leaking. Even that's not terrible though. It's just leaking a little bit at the input shaft and the sector shaft. Okay. There's our sweet new transmission, freshly painted. I don't know who did it, but Jasper ones are painted gray. This one's just silver. I don't know where it came from or what, but they're gonna have to get another one. Not a lot of transmission codes, kind of surprised, but we do have some cat codes and things. I don't know if he's hollowed out the cats or something. It's got a new muffler on it, new tailpipe. I don't think we did it. Not that I recall. Rear shocks definitely blown out. Going down the road, they don't do any shocking. And there's some stuff coming out of this one. Probably not ideal. Put a little list together. Nothing terrible, really. Looks like the cam sensor might be leaking, or the cam plate on the back. If we take the tranny out, we can do that pretty easily while we're in there. We'll have to definitely get a look at the rear main seal. If it's dry, then it's just the cam sensor above. They're basically in the back of the engine, and they run down and make it look like a rear main seal. But if you look at that, you can see the back of the engine's a little wet with oil above the bell housing, so the cam sensor's definitely leaking. Whether it's the rear main and that, who knows? And it's not even that bad. It's wet, but it's not leaving puddles on the ground or anything like that. So, all right. I've got my little list. Moving on to the next one while they work on this. Acura RDX. Complain about a brake noise. Wanted brakes inspected. He thinks his rotors may need to be resurfaced, but I don't hear any noises. So some people, you know, they're watching TV, they're bored on the couch at home. They say, "Let's go get the brakes checked." Okay, honey. You know what? Careful what you wish for. You might need rear brakes. They look a little low. I think what's happened is it's got 77,000 miles on it. It's got a little bit of that would probably buff out. I mean, all kidding aside, it's hard to tell. Let me get a flashlight. It's a lot better this way. You'll be able to see a little better. Instead of thinking, we see. Oh, the brakes are beautiful on this side. I think I saw a little bit of discoloration, not the backing plate like I thought. Yep, I saw a little bit of rust in there. I thought that was the backing plate against the rotor almost. So it's just a little discoloration, and the pads are like brand new all the way around. He came to us and he said, "I think I need my rotors resurfaced." Oh, why? I hear a noise. I don't hear a noise. I hear a little bit of sway bar links going clunk, clunk, clunk.
You have the force key?
I'm gonna lift it up the rest of the way and look around underneath. Squealers aren't touching any place. Sometimes they'll get tweaked out by rocks or something. Some debris in the road. But I do not see any problems with any of that. Everything looks pretty good. Car looks fairly new, like maybe it's from up north a little bit there. See what I'm talking about?
Go ahead and pull it. I just ordered it. It's in stock.
But nothing bad. All right, I'm gonna have to have them talk to the customer a little more. They said he's hard to understand. They don't know what he's really asking for. So that makes my job difficult, and I can't check the whole car bumper to bumper for 0.0. So it's either going to be time involved or a pinpointed symptom. Let's see what happens with this one. All right. Oh, I got to put my little foot on there first. 2018 Chrysler 300C. Oh, it's not even going to reach. It's going to be on the rubber pad though, so we're good. Customer hit something in the road and now it doesn't go. So we all pushed her onto the rack. We're gonna lift it up and see what he hit. They broke the park release hardware, so I got my pocket screwdriver holding it out of park. You guys know these things have like the Mercedes style setup in them. A great idea till your car breaks down. Anyway, it's in pretty good shape. It's gonna get like a 7 or 8 on the interior, but let's get it in the air and see what he hit. Well, we don't know what he hit. See what damage happened. That's what I meant. Nothing so bad back here. That's definitely no good. That is going to cause a no-go. That's why he's got a no-go. How the heck do you get the pan off of the... You got to get the rack out of the way or something? I know. Never mind. Specialty tools, I forgot. It's going to be some kind of special wobbly, triple jointed Torx bit or something. Now you got to take the rack out of the way. Just kidding. It's got a rust prevention treatment done down here and everything now, so he's gonna need a pan. This thing's all-wheel drive too. That's crazy. So it looks almost like a Nag 1 pan, but a little bigger, like a newer version of the Nag 1 they used to use. This is probably like a Nag 3.6 or something by now. Let me let them know up front. We're probably gonna have to order it, and then we'll revisit this car if they get this part. Customer has no choice but to fix it, I'd assume. Might try to put it through his insurance, depends on deductibles and stuff. Whatever he might have hit in the road somehow went up there. I don't know. It's not my job to figure out how it happened, just to fix it, right? So let's see what happens. Don't be jealous. Just a little Cadillac that's overheating. Let's take a look. It's an SRX. Ooh. This is a 2010 Cadillac SRX. 84,764 miles. You don't believe me? Look, I'll show you. Look. Oh, whoa. That's cool. Got the Cadillac logo. Nice. All right, shut up. It's very clean inside here. Very clean. 13 years old. I mean, there's a few little crumbs, so I'm going to give it a 7. I was thinking an 8 until I spotted some crumbs in the seams of the seat. Then that drops it down to a 7. Super nice. Overheated. Went into, they said had no power. But when these overheat, they go into like a limp mode, protection mode, where it turns off cylinders and tries to kind of air cool itself so you don't destroy your engine. So we're going to take a look under the hood, see where the coolant's going out at, and maybe the fan's not working, something like that. So let's go take a look. We'll get a little adapter deal going on here so we don't spill it, because I definitely want to see if it's a leak or a fan. Oh, look at that. You guys see it? Oh, free stuff. Free stuff. I promise it's not mine. It's a Pittsburgh. Look at that. I hope Bill didn't work on this last and lose his Pittsburgh quarter drive ratchet. It was laying on the transmission.
No, that's not mine.
Free tools. It's Free Tool Tuesday. All right, let me get some. I'm just gonna put a little water in there right now. See if I can find a leak first. I do see some fluid going down the radiator, but I'm not sure if that's from a cracked tank or from it overheating. But I would think it's a cracked tank, because if it overheats, generally it'll purge out near the overflow somewhere. There'll be a vent on the side molded into the reservoir. So anyway, let's get some water in and oh, look at that. There's coolant over there from some stuff happening. Probably broken heater hoses. So that's going to be hard to explain now unless we got multiple things going on. All right. Putting water in it will help. Well, that took almost a gallon of water. That's not good. You can hear it going down. Oh, there it is. There it is. Let's take the engine cover off and get a better look. So I'm wondering if this is going to be leaking too, but it's kind of strange. Sometimes when a vehicle overheats, there's traces from coolant blowing everywhere, so you don't really know for sure. I know one thing, got to get this cover off. Aha! It's running down the cylinder head. These things still need intake gaskets on the regular. Maybe that's what it looks like's happening. Someone's been messing with that water outlet too, but it's coming from above that. I'm gonna take this plastic cover off next. We'll just keep taking stuff off till we get to it, but we know it's coming from the back of the intake somewhere, or running down underneath it. I'm not really sure. Let me get a 10, get this out of the way. All right. And it looks like it's running down from under the cylinder head. How hot did this thing get? Interesting. Interesting. Oh ho! Tahoe ho ho! I see. There's some kind of a tube that runs down under the intake, it looks like. Or does this connect to a timing cover type of deal? It looks like that's been worked on too. Someone's been working on this, but not me, because I am unfamiliar with it. This might need exploratory surgery. Alright. Let me go look up the coolant coming from under the intake and see where we go next. Something is leaking right back here. Interesting. This is an expansion tube. Feels like it must be broken. I'm going to take that air cleaner snorkel out of the way there. Well, that's not supposed to be disconnected, so figure out where that goes to. There's probably a nipple down there under the power steering reservoir. And I'm guessing you got to get this overflow from the overflow to the overflow connection under the pump. Whew, that's kind of strange. That's a bad leak though, we got to fix for sure. I found the other end of it. There it is. That's the culprit. Oh well. We have them check on that part. Customer brought this sweet 2003 Nissan Z in for an alignment. So I was going to do it while they were trying to get the hose for that Cadillac. And found some interesting things. No bolt in the caliper. I forgot. It's been busy. We didn't even send the cotter pins either. But that's not the big problem. The big problem was that's not bolted in, and had a hairpin in there for a cotter pin. Wrong bolt. Rob was taking a picture to talk to the customer about it, and when he shook the wheel, the nut fell off. So I'm gonna let the lip down a little bit, try to get it back in place. There it is. Oh, the threads are all boogered. That's why the nut fell off. Oh my goodness gracious, I don't know. What are you gonna do, right? Now I have to get this hair clip back off and try to get this nut kind of back where it was. And with those threads being like that, I don't think that's gonna work. Yeah, not the right size nut. Let's see what's gonna happen with this thing. We wanted a quick alignment, and that's how the radiator's held in. It's got straps holding it in. What could go wrong? I'm not sure where these cars come from. Let a mechanic do it. If you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna get hurt or hurt somebody else. All right, guys. Buttoned up, gone home, everyone's out of here. So the hose isn't going to be here till the morning for that. Kind of flew off the rails at the end there with that nasty 350Z. I told that kid to tow that thing home because it's not safe. I mean, that thing, I said, you need to let us fix it or tow it home. I don't have any money. If it wasn't the end of the day, I probably would have fixed that one for him for free, but he wanted to go. He drove that thing home. So hope he makes it okay. It's kind of scary, really, seriously. Anyway, that's where we're ending today's video. We're going to have a better day tomorrow. We're going to turn some of that stuff around. I got a whole bunch of parts coming in for several of these vehicles I'm working on. And I might get to the Prius too. We got to do that power booster accumulator motor setup. Strange setup that thing is, but that's what we're going to probably do tomorrow. So I hope you'll tune in. Torque the like button on your way out if you will. That really helps the channel a lot. And maybe subscribe if you haven't yet. Hope I see you in the next video, because you're awesome.